So I found this especially helpful in the first pregnancy. So if you're a first-time mom, we're back to kind of our morning walks, which is just so gross, so incredibly moody. That's definitely another symptom, is just being out of breath literally all the time. So if that means just dumping stuff in a crock pot and letting it do its thing, that's what I'm gonna do. Maternity fashion in the first trimester. I don't know if it's really maternity yet. Nope, I feel nauseous, I'm tired, I don't want to be doing that. But I was just about to sit down and start filming this video, and I was like, why am I so tired besides being pregnant? And I realized I've not yet had a coffee this morning. I'm like, I can't film a video if I'm feeling this tired. So we're gonna make a coffee first, and then we will sit down and get comfy and have a chat. All right, now we're good. We got the coffee. All right, well, I am so excited to finally be able to talk about this, to be able to talk about pregnancy. This video has been a long time coming, and now that we have shared that we are expecting, I'm excited to share some more pregnancy related videos. Not all of my videos will be now all about this pregnancy, but I do have some fun ideas to share, and would also love to know your suggestions. If you have any videos you would like to see from me, comment them down below. But for today, we are talking all about the first trimester, symptoms, nausea, prioritizing health and nutrition, and even resources that I have found helpful. Every pregnancy is different, every mom is different. I'm just sharing my own experiences and what I have learned throughout this first trimester, and I hope that some bits and pieces can be helpful for you in your journey. So if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then I'm guessing you're watching this because you might also be expecting or hope to be soon. Welcome here. I'm so glad you are joining me today. Here on my channel, I share all sorts of motherhood, homemaking content. It's kind of a place where all of my interests sort of collide. My watercolor paintings, my baking, things I love to do in the kitchen, even things like organizing and decluttering around my home, thrifting, doing DIY projects. All of those things are things that I like to share here on my channel. So if that sounds interesting to you, then I would love for you to subscribe. All right, let's kick off this video with chatting a little bit about my pre-test symptoms. I feel like this was something I definitely experienced more this pregnancy than with my first. I was so positive. My husband as well. We were both so positive that we were expecting even before we took a test, and there were some reasons for that. First of all, I was tired. I was more tired than normal, but like I have a baby already, so it was kind of like that didn't really stand out to me as being abnormal. But now looking back, I can definitely see that I was just very tired. I'd also noticed that I had been feeling kind of lightheaded, and even that I didn't even really think about, because that was something that I'd kind of had with being like postpartum and just sort of maybe deficient in some vitamins and nutrients. And so I just had to make sure that I was like eating, fueling my body well. So even that, like feeling lightheaded sometimes, wasn't super abnormal. Again, what really gave me a good indication was actually when we were at my sister-in-law's house with her family. We were staying with them, and I woke up, I think it was a Friday. I woke up, and at this point we were already kind of like, oh, like maybe we are, maybe we're not. We don't really know. But on this day, I woke up and I was experiencing the most intense vertigo, which I'd never had before. But I like sat up in bed and I was like, the world was spinning. I felt like I just had to lay back down because I was just so dizzy. And at first I'm like, okay, what is wrong with me? This is so bizarre. And it actually lasted throughout the day, kind of on and off, but I just felt off. But even then I still wasn't really clicking in, but I was like, maybe that could be a symptom of being pregnant. But it wasn't until actually that very evening, we were kind of up a little bit later, and I was feeling so incredibly moody. And I'm not typically a moody person. Obviously, we all can have our grumpy moments, but this was not me, because there was no reason for it. Nobody had done anything. I was not upset at anything or anybody. I just felt so grumpy and tired, and eventually I was like, I just need to go to bed and like wake up tomorrow and start a new day because I just felt so moody. So with that, my husband and I think my husband said to me, he was like, yeah, you're pregnant. And so anyways, we were fairly certain at that point, but we actually waited a bit over a week, I think, to take a test. That was something I kind of wanted to do with our first. We basically took a test right away and it was positive. With this time, I knew that I wanted to just wait a little bit longer, just sort of enjoy some time as a family. It might sound crazy, but it's almost like once you take the test, it becomes real, even though it is real before, like you are pregnant before you take the test. For me, it was more of a mental thing. I was like, I just want to enjoy this time, sort of almost like pre-process, if you will. But finally we decided to take the test, and that was probably around 4 or 5 weeks. So that is how we found out. I feel like us taking the pregnancy test was a little bit anticlimactic. Even looking back on the recording, we thought it would be fun to have that memory. And I wish that I had recorded with our first. So we definitely wanted to this time. But looking back on the footage, I was like, this is so anticlimactic because we both were quite certain. It was still like nerve-wracking. But yeah, we weren't surprised, I guess. There were a few main symptoms that I experienced this trimester. I was so tired. There were a few weeks in particular, around like week 7 and then like around week 9, I was so tired. I was just like basically on the couch. It wasn't like a tired, like I didn't feel sleepy necessarily, but my energy was just zapped. And so I just hung out, I read, I watched a couple movies in the middle of the afternoon because I was like, I'm just so tired. And so that was interesting. It was definitely manageable because I'm at home with my son already. I remember when I was pregnant with him in the first trimester, I was a whole other level of tired because I was also teaching full time. So I was working all day, being like on all day, go, go, go. I loved it, but it was so exhausting. So I would come home and I would just be zapped. This was a little bit easier maybe because I was able to take those rests. My son is still napping twice, so that gave me a good amount of downtime. So my encouragement to you, if you are also struggling with this first trimester fatigue, which I think is very common, is to just take it easy, lower your schedule. I had to cancel a few things and it was like, I just cannot even imagine leaving the house right now. I was so tired. And also having a regular sleep schedule. I made sure I was like in bed before 10, but some nights it was 9. I was so tired. And then continuing to get up, making sure I was getting a good amount of sleep and that it was consistent routine for sleep at night as well. And then I also just think asking for help. It was so nice because my family was actually visiting with us for a good chunk of that time. And so my mom was so helpful with doing like housework and cooking meals and stuff. So I was very blessed to have extra support. So definitely don't be afraid to ask for help, ask your husband for help because that kind of tired is like a whole other level. The other thing that I experienced this time was nausea, which I also did in my first pregnancy. It was different though. In my first pregnancy, it was like more intense, but like for shorter amount of times, but I would actually be physically sick. This time around, it was just like a dull feeling of nausea for basically the whole morning. And again, I don't like, this is not me complaining. I consider this first trimester to have been not super horrible. Like I wasn't super sick. I have friends and know other ladies that are way more sick. So please don't hear that I'm complaining. I'm just sharing our experience. So a few things that have helped me with nausea and like that morning sickness feeling is having smaller like snacks, especially in the morning for me. Just focusing on just nourishing myself because that for me actually does help the nausea go away. It's just like horrible in the moment because I don't want to eat, but making sure I'm eating just small amounts. For me, I just kind of had to find like what sounded good or what was lighter. I would have more fruit in the morning. I would have more smoothies, things that wouldn't that didn't like gross me out, but would still give me some fuel to kind of combat that nausea. And then something that I did get in my first pregnancy was ginger pills. They're just ginger and they really help with nausea. So those are a great resource. We've actually just kept them in our medicine cabinet ever since because they just help with like, you know, if your stomach's a little upset or something. And then I think my encouragement to you would be actually what a mom friend of mine from church said. I was sharing with her how like I want to eat healthy, but I don't want like eggs in the morning. I don't want like proteins. I don't want vegetables. I just want carbs. That's what I was craving, was just carbs. And she told me, she was like, just go for it. Like, eat what you can, eat what sounds good. And that was like, oh yeah, I can just eat what I want within reason. Obviously we want to have balanced diets, but when you're sick, it's like you just kind of have to eat what sounds good. So I had a lot of like homemade breads. Also cheese for some reason was so delicious sounding in that first trimester. So I had a lot of cheese. And I would just say, if you find the foods that you do like, that you can stomach, just make sure you have them on hand for when you just need a little snack. Which leads us into a little bit of nutrition, because like I mentioned, I do want to have a well-rounded diet. Especially being pregnant, I want to be prioritizing nutrition for me, but also for my baby. So there's a few things that I've just learned that have been really helpful. The first is to just make a list of healthy snack ideas that you can grab that are quick prep, and then make sure that you have those things on hand. So like you can even look on Pinterest for ideas, but like apples and peanut butter. I did so many smoothies. I love that because they're refreshing. You can also pack so much like spinach and healthy stuff in there. Things like crackers and cheese. I've been doing a lot of snack plates, even with like some meats, kielbasa, things like that, to get some protein, like Greek yogurt parfaits. I had these so much in my first trimester, in my first pregnancy. It was amazing. I would just have plain Greek yogurt with berries. I would add a little bit of honey or maple syrup, and then have some granola, or what I did a lot was baked oatmeal. But that has not sounded good this pregnancy, so I haven't been doing those at all actually. Obviously things like hummus with veggies, or like peanut butter and crackers. I've been doing a lot of my sourdough breads. Oh, like avocado toast has been really good as well. When it comes to food aversions, I think it's just easiest to just stay away from the foods that you don't like. Like, I know that we want to prioritize nutrition, but at least for me in the second trimester, I feel a lot better and I can just eat pretty much whatever. For me, I did not want coffee at all this first trimester. It sounded so gross to me, which was actually really nice because it just gave me a bit of like a cleanse, I guess. Not that I really wanted to do that, but it was just kind of nice to not be maybe as reliable on it as I had been. But now I'm back to having my cup a day, and yeah, we're very happy together. Another sort of food aversion that I've had is not really, I guess it counts as an aversion, but it's like cooking or like raw meat or heating up leftovers. Ugh, was just so gross. So something that has been nice was making bigger meals and then having leftovers so that I didn't have to cook like every day, and then also doing more slow cooker meals where I can just dump stuff in the crock pot, let it sit all day, and then we have a meal in the evening. Like, simplifying meals is just, I think, so practical. And I want to give you permission that you don't have to be putting on these grand dinners. I know that I just need to feed my family. I don't need to be putting in like 150% for every meal. I just need to be consistent and get food on the table. So if that means just dumping stuff in a crock pot and letting it do its thing, that's what I'm gonna do. All right, I want to talk a little bit about exercise. This was something, again, in the first trimester I just did not want to do because of the fatigue and even just feeling nauseous. Like, now that I'm kind of in that second trimester, we're back to kind of our morning walks. But in that first little bit, it was like, no, I feel nauseous, I'm tired, I don't want to be doing that. But some things that were helpful was still trying to go for a walk, even if it was later in the day, sometimes in the evening, getting outside. And you know what, it doesn't have to be long. I think sometimes we, and I for sure, can get so hung up on the quantity versus the quality. Does that make sense? Like, it doesn't have to be an hour-long workout. Just doing something to get your heart rate up a bit, to get some endorphins pumping and get some exercise is really beneficial. So for me, that looked like a 15-20 minute walk. Absolutely nothing crazy. And then also doing stretches, which I'm back to watching Bridget Taylor's YouTube. I will link her channel down below. I think I watched like all of her videos in my first pregnancy. So I'm back to doing a lot of her stretching routine. She has some workouts, and it's all like, she's a birth doula, so it's all for pregnant. She has even different trimesters, even postpartum stuff. And so I love her little exercise things. They're all like about 20 minutes, very doable. I just get out my mat. It's very simple. The first product that I want to share is actually an app that I used in my first pregnancy as well. It is called the Baby Center app, and it just helps. It kind of shares like weekly little updates, tells you how big your baby is, gives little tips. So I found this especially helpful in the first pregnancy. So if you're a first-time mom, I would definitely recommend having an app like this. I don't know, it was just fun to kind of learn. At the time of filming this, I'm 14 weeks, and this is telling me that baby is about the size of a lemon. And then it's kind of funny because you can do fruits or you can do breakfast foods, which I think is so weird, but it's telling me baby is about the size of a croissant. And I think 1 week it was like a breakfast sandwich or something, which I thought was kind of strange. But anyways, it also tells you changes that your body might be going through. And so it just is helpful to give information, to kind of give even pictures, symptoms. And so that's a helpful resource, as well as this book, which I absolutely devoured with my first pregnancy. I don't have it right here, but I'll share a picture of it. It was so helpful in just understanding nutrition in general, but especially when you are pregnant. And I learned so much from this book. So I honestly would just recommend this for anybody who's expecting. She even gives information on postpartum. She gives recipe ideas, just goes through all the importance of the different types of things that we should be getting from our food, what types of food we should be eating, sourcing our food. It's so helpful. And then I already shared about the ginger chews, but also supplements, of course, are important to be taking a prenatal. I would just recommend talking to your health practitioner about this. I've talked to my midwife this time around, and I have a prenatal that I really like, and I like it because it has iron in it. Some don't, but I think iron is really important in pregnancy, and so this one has been really good. But also this time around, my midwife actually gave me a short list of supplements to be taking in addition to this. So maybe ask your health provider if there are other things you should be taking. This is kind of just their list that they give everybody. In addition to the prenatals, I'm taking some vitamin B, some vitamin D, and like probiotics, and a couple other things just to make sure that I'm as healthy as can be for me and for baby. Lastly, this was something that I focused again a lot in my first pregnancy. I feel like I'm mentioning that a lot because I just learned so much during that pregnancy. I feel like this time with baby number 2, I'm not really researching as much. I have it all kind of in my head. I'm just sort of doing it all again. And so with my first pregnancy, I started really switching out my beauty hair care products for cleaner options, and that's been something that I'm still just trying to do. I can't say that I switched out everything in my first pregnancy, but I think at this point, I think everything is that I've been using is clean. For me, makeup was the one that kind of took the longest, but I've been using a few of Merit's products, which I've been liking. I've only been using them maybe a month, but I really like their foundation stick, and I really like their blush. In my first pregnancy, sorry, I feel like I'm like really out of breath. That's definitely another symptom, is just being out of breath like literally all the time. So sorry, it sounds like I just ran, like sprinted or something. In my first pregnancy, I used the brand Ilia. I used their foundation. Honestly, I didn't quite care for it. I know it's one that's recommended a lot to pregnant moms. I think a lot of other moms use it. I just found like the coverage was super, super light. And then there's a few other beauty skincare products that I've switched over that are cleaner. And so I will actually share my summer favorites video below because I actually talked about them there, as well as perfume. So just making some cleaner swaps, I think, is helpful, even just in general, like whether I'm pregnant or not. I want to be kind of being more mindful of the things that I'm putting on my body, on my skin, and stuff like that. All right, let's talk maternity fashion in the first trimester. I don't know if it's really maternity yet because you may not really have a bump yet, but it's like things are starting to expand a little bit. So I feel like there's just so much marketing, especially for pregnancy and moms and stuff like that. I personally feel like there's no clothing that you need to buy in the first trimester. For me, I just used things that I already had. I just reached for the things with like the stretchy waistbands. Have not got into my maternity pants yet. I feel like I will probably soon, but I think there's a lot of tips and tricks, such as wearing tank tops is helpful to just kind of give a little bit more like coverage if you are starting to show. Also, the belt loop trick, I use this so much. I would take a rubber band or a hair tie and like you loop it through your button loop of your jeans and wrap it around the button, and that kind of gives a little, like a couple extra inches in your waistline, which is very handy. And then honestly, I think if you're like in your first trimester in the summer or spring, like for me, I've just been wearing dresses. I wear dresses to church all the time. I wear dresses around the house because they're comfortable. And if you're like fall, winter, just wearing like oversized sweatshirts, t-shirts, I definitely think you can get away with what you have. So I would challenge you not to just like buy a bunch of stuff, especially if you're a first time mom, because I know that was really hard, like seeing all these things advertised and like people saying I need all this for the first trimester and first trimester must-haves. And I just feel like you don't really need much at all. And I would encourage you to just work with what you have. Well, I would love to hear from you, especially if you are also expecting a baby. Let me know maybe some of your food cravings you've been having or some of your symptoms, even tips or resources that you have that you would like to share. I would love to hear. I always love reading your comments. So comment down below on this video. And thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. I hope that you were able to glean some helpful tidbits, whether it's just managing symptoms, dealing with nausea, or nutrition. I hope that they have been helpful for you. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more motherhood and home content. Again, I'd love to hear from you and your experiences, so comment down below and I will see you in my next video. Bye.